Hello everyone, you are watching Square Triangle Mouse, and today I'm bringing you some news from Amplitude about Humankind. They are about to launch some very relevant changes to the game with a new update that is coming very soon with the anniversary of Humankind. And I'm going to talk about the three major changes that they are announcing and how I believe will impact the game. So let's go right straight into it. The first improvement they mentioned is the change to Naval Combat, and I think this is going to be really massive. Right now, as most players, I thought Naval Combat was a bit underwhelming. There wasn't much to do with boats, and now a lot of things are changing. Of course, the units are going to be harder, better, faster, and so on. I'm quite happy with these, of course. Now the battlefields are going to be larger. That is pretty good. Also, there's going to be retaliation. Now, I think this is very important. Right now, in naval battles, if you attacked and the ships were more or less similar, you would almost always win, even if in the higher difficulties. Just having the ability to have the first shot was really huge for naval battles in Humankind. So having some form of retaliation, I think, will make these battles a little bit more interesting, hopefully. I'm really looking forward to this. Personally, it's my favorite change of the ones they have announced here. Although Amplitude considers that the biggest change here is the main ship, basically. So starting in the early modern age, you will have access to two classes of ships: capital ships and escorts. And so the capital ship is a big guy, really strong, really hard to sink. And then the escorts are the smaller ones trying to defend the capital ship, and the capital ship will try to invade the port cities in order to destroy their walls and so on. I think this is an interesting change. I want to see how strong capital ships really are. I want to see if their bombardments, are actually good enough to take down all of the walls of a city, for example. That could be really interesting. Incidentally, if you have a new way of destroying the city's walls and the city's defenses, that would also make the mounted units stronger, because they will suddenly be able to enter the city if the ship can destroy the walls. So that could be a massive change to the game, but let's see how really strong these capital ships are. In any way, just the fact that there is going to be retaliation from now on, I think it's going to be very good, and it's going to be making naval battles much more interesting. So I'm really looking forward to this change. I'm very optimistic about it. Another very important change that is coming to Humankind involves resources and economy. There are some very relevant changes here as well. I don't know how they will work. I am maybe not so extremely optimistic about these ones as I was about the naval battle. Maybe they are great, don't get me wrong, but I'm not 100% sure. So basically what happens here is that you are going to have a number of resources on each extractor, let's say. So you're not getting just one per extractor, you're getting a number that can vary from one extractor to the other one. That's a little bit more interesting in my opinion. Now you will be able to build the infrastructure even if you don't have all of the resources that the infrastructure needs, because there are going to be a lot of them. That being said, if you are short on one of the resources, so for example, if you need 4 iron and only have 2, then it will take you longer to build that infrastructure. I like that system in paper. I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't know how well it will work in the game, but in paper it sounds really reasonable, so I kind of like it. And they are changing the luxuries, which I think was necessary for a long time. Right now, luxuries are just way too strong, way too important. So now we have a little bit of a difference. We have the diversification effect, so that's something that happens when you access a new luxury for your empire. And then the cumulative effect, that is a different one, and you don't get such a huge boost to your resources when you get the cumulative effect. I like that they are, let's say, nerfing this effect. I think it makes sense. I think it was too strong before, so I'm mostly okay with this. Finally, you have internal trade. So if you want your resources and your luxuries to really affect all of your empire, they need to reach your capital. They need to reach your capital, and then from there, the resources will be distributed to the rest of the empire. Again, this is something that on paper makes sense. That's how most empires used to work when it came to trade. Even nowadays, a lot of customs agencies are in the country's capital. So all in all, this does make a lot of sense. But again, I'm looking forward to see how this affects the actual game. On paper, however, it sounds okay. However, these long lines that you can see here in the map, they could be obstructed, so you might not be receiving a resource if you cannot, let's say, draw an uninterrupted line between the extractor and your capital. And this leads us to the next big update. And the next big update is about poaching. So people can actually interrupt your trade lines so you don't get the full benefit of a resource. And sometimes when one of these trade lines is very long, there are going to be some trade nodes, and these trade nodes can be poached. This is a change that I'm more suspicious about. I don't know if it will really affect the game all that much. And the reason for that is that this is always going to be considered an aggressive action. And so when an army of yours is poaching a trade node, anyone can attack that army. So I don't know in higher difficulties how doable this is going to be. I mean, if anyone can attack you and anyone can be close to that trade node, how often are you actually going to be interrupting these trade nodes? How many turns will it take you to do this? Will it be really feasible to poach a trade node? I don't know. I'm not sure about that at all. It could be interesting if you can actually destroy harbors in a reasonable amount of time when you're at war, for example, because then you will want to do this with your naval armies. It's a big incentive to actually try to ransack harbors. I wasn't ransacking harbors so often before, but I think with this change, maybe I will start to do it more often, especially if I can interrupt a trade line for a strategic resource like saltpeter, for example. But I don't know how impactful this is actually going to be in practice. So I'm not completely convinced about this new change. However, if you can do it, if you can maybe interrupt a trade line in the middle of the ocean, for example, that could be very interesting. It could release a whole new strategy, a whole new idea, and that could change the game quite a lot. So yeah, if it works, it's going to be great, but I don't know if it's really going to work in practice, because anyone can stop you when you're trying to poach a trade node. So this could be one of those things like espionage, for example. In paper, it sounded interesting, or leverage. It sounded interesting on paper, but in practice, it's not so impactful actually. So we'll see how it works. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really, really looking forward to the changes in the naval battles. I think that's going to be really nice, and probably the first game I record after these changes are implemented is going to be one in which I create a map with a lot of very small continents, so we have a lot of ocean and a lot of naval battles, and also a lot of these trade nodes in the middle of the ocean. Who knows, that could also be a very interesting map to play, a very fun map to play, hopefully. We're going to see all about that in this channel. If you want to see how I apply this on practice the moment it is launched, remember to subscribe to the channel, and also it helps a lot whenever you hit the like button, so please remember to do so I can keep growing the channel and keep doing more strategy guides for Humankind and some other Forex games. And as usual, guys, thank you very much for watching.